Welcome to the Books of Titans podcast hosted by Eric Rostad. Join him on his 15-year journey through the immortal books. He'll share what he's learning, explore profound ideas across time and cultures, and share the one thing he always hopes to remember from each immortal book.
Well, hello there. I have a special episode for you guys today. I'm going to talk about how to teach yourself to read better as an adult. And I'm always a little hesitant doing episodes like this. I feel like they are cheesy, like I'm some guru or something that is talking about how to read better. I always, it's just weird to me. But when I look at the analytics for the podcast and I talk about a book, there'll be a certain average number of people that download those episodes. When I talk about the reading life and how to read better, and despite feeling cheesy about it, that's the ones that you guys really enjoy listening to. And so with that in mind, and then also the book that I'm currently reading and I was hoping to cover in this week's podcast, I have not finished it. And it's one that I want to spend a lot of time on and then do the podcast episode well on that book. So I don't want to rush it. And so I'm doing this episode this week, and then I'll be back to covering books next week. But with that in mind, I want to start by sharing a story. And this happened a few years ago with a new acquaintance I made here in Franklin, Tennessee. My wife and I are big coffee drinkers, and so we go to different coffee shops in the area here. And one of the proprietors of one of the coffee shops, we got to know, and I started meeting with this guy. We'd meet for coffee, and around that time, I read a book about coffee, and it was so good that I thought, I'm gonna just buy this book for this new friend and give it to him to read. I think he'll really enjoy it. And didn't think much of it, just gave him the book. And then we met a couple weeks after that. And he said, that is the first book that I've read since college. And I was taken aback at first, he's probably in his late 20s, early 30s by this point. And so you're looking at like a 10-year period where he had not read a single book. And I think that's where a lot of adults find themselves especially in this time with this added distraction we have of these screens that are all around us now. And so I think for most people, after high school or college, you were forced to read so much that you had to read to get through school. You didn't necessarily want to read it. And so you almost just want to take a break from reading for a while. You've been slammed with it, and now you just need a break from reading. And maybe you'll get back to it again in the future, but after school, you're just like, I need a little break. But then you start a job, you perhaps start a family, you have kids, and all of a sudden years are passing by in the blink of an eye, and you're thinking, how am I ever going to get back into reading? Like there's books I want to read. I just don't even know how to get into them. And so I started this reading project, Books of Titans, when I was in my late 30s. I started it in 2017, and so I was 37. And so relatively late in life, or later than I would like. Looking back now, I wish I had started much earlier, but I didn't. And I think that's where a lot of people find themselves. And so I'll talk a little bit about my process and my experience with this, but I want to go over just how to read it all, and then secondly, how to read better as an adult. And so what I'm going to focus on mostly for this episode is reading for pleasure, as opposed to reading for your job or reading trade material for whatever work you're in. And certainly there'll be overlap. I like reading books about marketing each year, trying to fit at least one in for the line of work that I'm in. I'll read books about finance and that kind of thing. And so there's overlap, but for the sake of this episode, let's just kind of consider reading for pleasure more than reading to get ahead in work or that kind of thing. So first off, just with reading it all, I want to start by talking about 3 advantages and 3 challenges that we have as we get older. And so for the advantages, the first advantage, and this is a huge one, is that we have choice. And if you think back to school, you did not get to choose what you read. And I talk to people all the time that are, I may suggest a book to them and they'll say, okay, yeah, I'll get to that in 4 years after I finish my dissertation or after I finish college. Or, there's this almost while they're in the process, they don't have the choice of what they want to read. And hopefully they're in a program that they enjoy, but they don't get to necessarily choose the books that they really desire to read. And so that is one of your advantages if you are an adult, if you are past that point of school. And it's a huge one. You get to select, you get to choose which books that you want to read. The second advantage you have is desire. You get to select what you want to read, and it can be the books that you desire. And the advantage here, and compare this back to your schooling, when you're learning to pass a test or to get through a grade, you just kind of naturally retain the information long enough to pass that test, and then you conveniently wipe it from your memory. Whereas if you are reading out of a desire, because you want to read something, you will recall that information. Like you want to build on what you already know. You want to come across new information, and it's like your brain is just a sponge for that, and it wants it. And so that is your second main advantage, is just that on the desire side, you get to read what you want to read. And then the third advantage is you have a better awareness of yourself and where you lack. So what are things you realize just as you go on in life that you don't know a lot about? Maybe it's finances. Maybe it is you look around and see these classics being spoken about, and you realize that you haven't read them. That's kind of the boat that I'm in. There's all these books I've heard of my whole life, and I haven't read most of them, and I just want to. So you can identify a lack where it's a little harder when you're in college and you're just having to do it. So these three advantages of having the choice to read what you want, the desire of pursuing to read what you want to read, and then just this knowledge of where you lack. Those are three big advantages you have as you age. Now, on the challenges side, you have three main challenges, and the first one is going to be time. You just don't have time like you used to, especially in college. And it's so funny, I just even thinking back to college, like I thought I was so busy, and you just have so much time when you're in school. You don't think you do, but you do, especially when you get on in life and responsibilities and family. It's just there's limited daily time. So I want to talk about time on two different fronts here as the first challenge. You have limited daily time. Your day is just going to be packed with so many different things. But then the other challenge is you have limited lifetime as well, in the sense that you're going to die at some point. And so let's just say you're 40 years old right now and you live till you're 80. That's 40 more years of reading. Say you just read 10 books a year. You've got 400 books left in your lifetime. That may sound like a lot, but it's really not. There are millions and millions of books out there to select from. And so how are you going to narrow it down to just the 400 books that you want to read? So the first challenge there are time. The second one is focus what do you focus on? With saying you have 400, maybe you read 20 books, maybe you read 50 books a year, so you can adjust that number. But there's some number of the number of books you have remaining that you'll be able to read in the time that you have left on this earth. So how do you select what to focus on? That's kind of the second big challenge. Do you pick a subject? Do you pick a list of books? How do you go about this? That's kind of the second one. The third one challenge is the screens. We have so many screens around us now. I'm in front of a screen almost the entire day, whether it's a computer screen for work, a phone that I'm constantly checking. And so just in terms of attention span, anytime there's just go anywhere, like anytime there's a second of free time, everybody's whipping out their phone to see the latest. And so there's it's harder and harder to focus. It's harder and harder to have that time to read. And so even if you look at the time that you are spending on your phone, it seems like you're busy while you're doing it, because you might be checking email and oh, this is really important. I'm getting emails. I need to respond to these. And so there's this perception that we're constantly busy and we don't have time. But a lot of that is just because of the screens, and we're constantly on them. So let's get into kind of the second part of this episode of how can I teach myself to read better as an adult? Well, this is the best tip I can give you in this episode, and it's to start by reading what you love. And that may sound obvious, but you go into a bookshop and you are naturally going to gravitate to the topics, the type of books that you're interested in. And this is the key to everything. How will you read better? Well, if you're interested in it, you're going to want to remember it. You're going to lap up the material as you're reading it. And a friend of mine, Alex, he says it this way: read what you love until you love what you read. And that is really the key to all of this of teaching yourself to read better as an adult. It will happen naturally if you're focused on what you really want to read. If you're forcing yourself to read things you don't want to read just because somebody told you had to read it, it's gonna be harder to teach yourself to read better. But it will be a natural process as you select things that you really want to read. Your brain will just light up. You'll come across other books in what you're reading and you'll kind of go down all these rabbit holes, and it's an exciting process, but it all starts by reading what you love and reading what you want to read. Second thing, just in how can I teach myself to read better as an adult, is to make margin in your life. So right now you may not even be able to imagine where extra time would come from to read. But one thing you could do just to start, and this is nerdy, but you could just kind of create a spreadsheet or even a piece of paper and just kind of bracket it out and just track your time during the day. So you wake up, what do you do? Like what's the first 30 minutes? What are you doing? Are you checking your phone? Are you drinking coffee? Are you in the shower? Are you eating breakfast? What's your commute time? What's your time at work, picking up kids? Just kind of track that through the day and just note what you're doing through the day. And if you do that for a week, it just kind of gives you a picture of how you're spending your time. And it's really insightful because we all think we're slammed and we're busy, but you'll start noticing these little pockets of time in your day where it's like, well, I really don't need to scroll for 30 minutes there, or I don't need to do this. I could use that time in a better way. And so just seeing it all laid out in a spreadsheet or a sheet of paper is a great way to picture how your life is spent. Second thing is just to utilize that. A lot of studies out there show that if you give something up, you have to replace it with something else. So if you're trying to put time into reading and you give something up, just kind of think of what you might be able to give up. For me, that was TV, and especially news, like watching news and reading news. I used to subscribe to this antiquated newspaper thing where they'd send it and have it on your driveway in the morning. But I spent a lot of time in that, and I just kind of looked at it and thought, news is so hard. Like, how do you actually know what's going on in the world? And I just came to a point where it's like, I might be getting more confused than actually learning what's happening. And so what if I just stopped the newspaper? What if I stopped reading the newspaper and spent that time reading instead? So that's one way that if you just kind of try to find these different things in your life that aren't adding anything, aren't helping you at all, and if you give those up, but you then have to replace it with reading. So if there's a certain time of day where it's like, oh, this is when I read the paper, this is when I watch the news. If you give it up, use that exact time of day and then read instead. So you replace that time. I've found the morning to be the time that I can read the best. And maybe you're not a morning person. Maybe that time for you is at night. But especially if you have a family, you've got to try to find some period of time where everyone else is sleeping, or there's a time of quiet, because once things get going, you're not going to be able to start reading in the midst of everybody getting ready for school and eating breakfast and all that. So I wake up before my family does, and that's the main time every day that I have for reading. That requires me to go to bed earlier, and I understand that may be really difficult with kids. We've got one of our daughters loves to just keep coming in at night and telling us how she can't sleep. So it makes getting to bed early hard. There's activities and all sorts of stuff, and so I understand the challenges. But try to identify some part of the day where either early or late, where there's some quiet and you can really focus on reading. And then just start small, start slow. Maybe you can only identify 5 minutes at first, but start with that. You can get a page or two in of reading, and then just kind of add to that time as you keep going. Another tip is to always carry a book. That's one of the amazing things as an adult, is with all of the responsibilities that we have, there are just these pockets of time throughout the day where it might be 5 minutes where you're early to an appointment, or you're in the grocery store and the line is very long. And I'm the nerd. I've got this little man purse that fits a book. And so I've always got that around me when I'm somewhere. So even in a store, I've got that. And so I can just take the book out and start reading where I am. And these 5 minutes, these 10 minutes, they keep adding up. Drop my daughters off somewhere or go back to pick them up. And I'm waiting in the car line, and there's another 5 or 10 minutes. And if you look around in the car line, every single person is on their phone. Be the person on reading the book instead. And again, it's just these kind of 5 minutes that all can add up. Also, take advantage of the new technology that is out there. I mean, audiobooks are incredible. So if you've got a long commute, try to start listening to audiobooks. We as adults have just tons of chores all the time, inside the house, outside the house. I love just putting in headphones while I'm doing those and listening to podcasts or listening to books. It's just a way, and it just makes it go by quickly. And it almost turns it enjoyable. Some of these chores that you hate doing, if you've got something going in your headphones, it can make it exciting. Or while you're exercising, another way to read or to listen to books. Read as a family. If you're finding it's hard to find time, read books together as a family. That's another way that you can get some reading in. I recommend you join a reading group. I've been a part of a few with the Catherine Project over the last 4 years. And so if you just do a search for Catherine Project, they have different semesters, and you can join these groups. They're free. You end up talking to people from all over the world, and you'll go through a book. I'm going through the Psalms right now with one group. I've gone through the Iliad and the Odyssey, and that's just been an incredible way to read books that I've wanted to read, but then to discuss them. And you learn so much hearing different people's perspectives on the same text that you're reading. And that has been an absolute joy. I lead a reading group, so you could join my reading group. We do it in person and online. And if you go to my Substack and you become a paid subscriber, you will get the details for the Zoom call information. And the group I'm doing this year, it's called Short Great Books. So this month we're doing The Great Gatsby. We're doing some Greek tragedies other months. And it's been really fun. We've done Epic of Gilgamesh, Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass. And so that's another group that you can join. And again, I do that one online and in person if you live in the Franklin, Tennessee area. as you age, studies are showing that there are tremendous cognitive benefits, and you can improve your memory. Like there's just a lot of benefits to reading. I found it really calms me down. I do it first thing in the morning. I set my coffee to brew, and then I have 30, 45 minutes, maybe an hour of reading with my coffee. And it just sets the day off well. It's peaceful. Things are firing in my brain. I'm like, oh, I want to go down this rabbit hole. It's a really great thing. And then just, as more and more studies come out and show how it improves memory, decreases anxiety, especially with all the screens. Like if you can take more of that time into reading, that'll really help you out. I want to end with the most important thing on just, how can I teach myself to read better as an adult? I've talked about different ways to do that, but I also want to give you like an end goal with all this. And for me, I found a ton of joy in the reading life. I'm connecting things. I'm able to talk to people about different things that they're interested in because I'm reading about them, or just as I travel, talk to people about their history, and it's brought so much more excitement in life. And there's always this life of the mind going on. It's really fun. And so if for no other reason, like just there is so much joy if you go down this path, if you start the process of reading as an adult and reading more and just kind of going deeper into the things that you're interested in and in the rabbit holes that takes you down. It's a really exciting thing. And so I want to just give you that picture of where this could lead. That's going to do it for this episode. I want to just tell you a little bit of my current reading life. So this month was going to be the month of Euripides, and I was going to try to read the rest of the plays by Euripides. And I've shelved that for a few weeks here, and there's a lot going on. I'm the business manager at Landmark Booksellers in Franklin, Tennessee, and we have a lot of events coming up where I've wanted to read the books that are being covered. A friend of mine has written a book and is about to release it, and he sent me a copy of it. I want to read that. One of my colleagues at Landmark just released or is about to release a book of poetry, and so I want to read that. So I've got all these different books that just kind of came up, and I really try to stay on target and on task and work my way through these immortal books. But I came to a point here where I just needed to take like a few weeks and get through these books. The other ones are for events at Landmark. So I want to read these books before I hear the author speak about them so I can be informed, perhaps ask questions during the Q&A time, and it just makes that experience a lot more enjoyable. So I will be back into the Greek tragedies and Euripides again soon, but I am taking a little bit of a break here. But I will cover those books that I'm reading now on the podcast as well. So little change. I mean, even from like a week ago of what I thought I'd be reading right now, but it's been a lot of fun. So that'll do it for this week. Thank you for listening. I hope some of these ideas just spark something to get you going. Again, just think of kind of that end goal of not to have a pile of books that you've read and you can tell people and check a box or something like that. But there is so much joy in reading. It's kind of the antidote to a lot of the problems and things that people are dealing with. Like you just think of the spike in anxiety and depression. And I think so much of that is based on the screens and how we're always going to those. It's our first thing. And I'm as guilty as anyone. It's just kind of the first thing I'm always looking at. But what if I can replace that? What if I can really focus on these books that they take more time to read. They get you deeper. They expand your mind. They take you to new lands. You travel from your reading chair. You travel all over the world in different times and ideas. It's a fabulous way to live. And I hope this gives you the spark to embark on that journey. Thank you for listening. Until next week, keep reading, keep listening, and keep learning. I'm out.